see them on game day, how they celebrate the game, how they photobomb.
Best guy here, man. All right, God, I'll see you.
Yeah.
Reporters said Travis Kelce arrived at the Chiefs' glossy docuseries premiere in Kansas City like a scene stealer stepping off a film set. The sidewalk outside the theater alive with flashes and murmurs as fans leaned over barriers to catch sight of him sliding out of a $400,000 Rolls-Royce Phantom. Sunglasses catching the light, suit jacket swung over one shoulder, pacing with the easy poise of a magazine cover regular. While under the hum of applause and chatter, the crowd's real curiosity kept tilting toward the same question, whether Taylor Swift would appear beside him and send feeds into a frenzy. But she did not, and he strode in solo, composed as ever, while the valet fussed over every inch of chrome, and the hopeful whispers about a surprise cameo hung in the warm Midwestern air like confetti that never fell. And inside, the Kelce family turned the carpet into a homecoming all their own as Donna and Ed Kelce glowed for cameras, his grin wide enough to fold into a laugh, his voice carrying to a few microphones about how romance had turned into rocket fuel for Travis's form, hinting, as some noted, that this season might be a career peak because, so he joked, affection could be the secret syrup of performance. And onlookers said Travis, at 35, had the frame of a comic book hero cut by Boca Raton, training and the bounce of a man who never needed a second wind. And Coach Andy Reid gave his genial answers of the step and repeat until Travis playfully slipped in behind him, hands on shoulders, part linebacker, part class clown, reminding everyone how he could flip from ceremonial royalty to locker room prankster in a breath. And yet even the coach found himself fielding the inevitable Taylor question, smiling as he called her perhaps the most recognizable woman since a monarch and praising her drive and leadership. With the premiere morphing from a team celebration into the city's most coveted invite because of the swift gravity tilting the night, the red carpet resembling a family album as Patrick Mahomes and Britney paused in coordinated glamour, while Travis mingled with teammates, owner Tavia Hunt, and a chic Tammy Reid, dressed in a soft gray suit, crisp white tee, spotless sneakers, and shadowed lenses, all breezy charisma like the stylish relative who also happened to be a six-time All-Pro with 2 Lombardi trophies, and mid-continent miles away. Selena Gomez, according to those in Cabo, headlined her own festivity, a bachelorette spectacular that unfurled over azure Pacific water. Yachts pulsing with music and laughter as Ashley Cook, Raquel Stevens, Courtney Lopez, and cousin Priscilla clinked glasses, danced, and soaked up sun while cameras captured each spontaneous grin. A strapless black swimsuit already flipping timelines, later traded for white pants and brown boots for land excursions, doubling the weekend's fashion sizzle. And her fiancé, Benny Blanco, as sources noted, held his bachelor revelry in Las Vegas with a swarm of 25 friends, giving the internet one big question to toss between DMs, where Taylor Swift had gone in the middle of this two-city spectacle, and theories fired across timelines as fans imagined her in Kansas City cheering on Travis, or joking that her cats had napped on luggage a delayed departure. Group chat spun detective yarns. Meme engines ran hot, and eventually the whisper was that she was under the weather, a modest explanation that only deepened the aura, leaving many to picture her rooting quietly from afar. And witnesses described Selena's celebration as movie bright, chartered for memory, a party designed to be retold at living rooms and dinners for years, while word circled that the wedding would land in California with a guest list both starry and intimate and a table nod to Texas through Nana's biscuits and gravy, and back in Kansas City. Insiders said Taylor became the cheerleader partner behind the scenes, greenlighting every cameo in the Chiefs' glossy 6-part ESPN docuseries and setting an unfussy tone that framed her as relaxed and game, with the show reading as a love note to team, kin, and city, and the star's presence acting like the extra fries at the bottom of the bag. Welcome and fun, fans charmed by glimpses of her not as the arena headliner, but as the woman in the stands at Arrowhead sharing nachos, hollering at refs, living the autumn rituals with everyone else, while executives recognized the promotional wildfire that no budget could match, and the season on screen People recalled traced a 2024 rampage to a 15-2 ledger that looked bulletproof until the Eagles shattered the sound barrier in the Super Bowl, stalling a three-peat and postponing dynasty talk. Loss deepening the bond between roster, city, and the pop phenomenon who had become a fixture in boxes and bleachers. And in Nevada, the odds makers tucked fresh sheets into their ledgers, listing not only wins and spreads, but also the romance, setting probabilities on whether a Grammy would arrive before a proposal, chalking a roughly 40% chance for more golden gramophones, a slimmer 11% for engagement, and telling fans, with a wink, to keep cash for tour nights, not party confetti. But the couple kept cruising, and then, in a twist that ruptured comment sections, Taylor revealed a new album, The Life of a Showgirl, live on Travis's podcast, a quiet launch of the relationship in a delightfully sideways way, swapping the choreographed grid of dual Instagram posts for a sports audio drop. And Travis, who had heard the music early, hyped it as a dozen no-skips, a line that fired up fan forums and forecasting pages that pegged October 3rd as a stream storm big enough to rattle servers, with predictions ballooning toward hundreds of millions of plays in a single day. And Travis doubled the buzz by posing for a GQ cover shoot that veered from playful to surreal, conjuring Crocodile Dundee with couture, handling a real alligator while crowned in a shaggy fur hat sized like a carry-on, hands gripped by yellow work gloves, and wrist flashing a timepiece bright as a trophy, and the styling brain trust, led by Law Roach, known for sending Zendaya into fashion folklore, turned overalls and marsh country aesthetics into runway material, then pivoted him into a fringed leather Balenciaga jacket, worn bare-chested with ivory trousers and cowboy boots. A plains meets Paris collision. And for the finish, he launched into seawater wearing only a cowboy hat and a glowing chain, locking eyes with the camera like a Baywatch audition routed through the Midwest, a set so exuberant that fans joked Taylor was either cackling or saving screenshots. And the cover captured him in midair on a flyboard, shorts minimal, a red Prada vest seismic, and a Rolex pricier than the ski beneath him, accompanied by the whisper that he spent 3 hours choosing each game day fit, which after this chaos-couture display felt like archival curation, and the improvisation wasn't confined to lenses, as analysts pointed out that on grass, he lived in the gray space where timing and instinct fuse 6'5" and 35 and still sidestepping with ease, but more potent for his feel for breaking routes at perfect moments, a knack that took root in the Alex Smith era when the quarterback worked rigid plays with a receiver first tilt, then poured over film and realized that Travis was, in a sense, always open, even when the spot wasn't precisely marked by chalk, new guidance evolving into a quiet mantra. When in doubt, find 87, a bent but not broken approach that shredded coverages and planted a lesson in adaptability that boardrooms would gladly borrow. So while Travis toured carpets and covers, Selena danced across decks, Taylor played the supporting role from the wings, and Vegas played its numbers games with trophies and rings. The stories wove together and stretched into a tapestry as the Chiefs doc drifted from a football Valentine to a pop culture crossover unlike any since the city last painted streets in confetti, and for holdouts still dissecting absence at the Bachelorette, citing rumors and plotting digital detective trails about the missing superstar. Sources repeated the plain version, that she hadn't felt well, a simple human note drowned at times by the megaphone of celebrity. And talk turned to what might take center stage next, a walk down an aisle. Another title in February. More podcast reveals lobbed like spirals at midnight, with Kansas City rebranded as a global marquee where the couple's gravitational pull packed the plaza nightly, and a certain Rolls-Royce Phantom waited for its next moment under theater lights. No valet theatrics necessary, while beyond the velvet ropes the city's skyline cast reflections in windows as if encouraging another chapter. And those close to the team said the ESPN series threaded candid living room scenes with the thunderclap of Arrowhead game days, playing out the bonds among parents, siblings, teammates, and staffers who had built rituals around chili cook-offs, film sessions, and post-victory rides down familiar streets. and viewers loved the cutaways to tailgates where families in red-layered blankets over folding chairs as the evening cooled. And in those vignettes, Taylor's cameos were like glances across a party, casual, unforced, a hand on an arm, a cheer at the right time, a fist. Bump delivered through nerves at third and long. Never stretching moments, but catching them quickly, as if full of a performer's time sense, then gliding toward the theater doors where another flash flare crowned him for a second. And inside, Andy Reid bantered near a lobby display, sipping soda and weaving jokes about barbecue, then answering football strategy questions with that half-smile that hides data. Before one more query about Taylor teased out the same refrain about her leadership and preparation, the coach placing artistry and discipline in the same sentence as if describing a veteran guard pulling on a counterplay. And attendees filtered into their seats while the orchestra of clinks, whispers, and shuffles hushed beneath the opening montage, the screen rippling with drone footage of morning light over the Missouri River. A city waking up to possibility as voiceovers spoke of heritage, grit, and the improbable alchemy of winning. And the camera found Travis in quiet, fastening laces before a game, thumb tracing the eyelets like an old habit, then cut to Arrowhead exploding into red, horns blaring, a dive route, a pivot, a drag, and a stiff arm, his helmet snapping, the sideline clapping. And then the documentary returned to family kitchens where Donna ladled soup while telling stories that blunted the edges of fame, and the sequence carried through to practice, where Travis joked with tight ends coach Tom Melvin about hand placement and leverage, then elbow-bumped rookies with a line that made them laugh and listen at once. And the film landed a moment where a staffer asked whether love changed a routine, and the answer, given off-camera, was framed by a shot of a quiet chair and a jacket on a hook, leaving the audience to read the rest in silence. Subscribe for the next drop, and by intermission, phones lit with both gossip and admiration. Comment threads filling with notes about how the doc kept the heart on the sleeve, but the private rooms tucked away, a balance that pleased those who wanted the team's magic without turning every door handle. And out on the plaza, a saxophonist buskied under a streetlight, sliding into pop melodies that made teens stop and dance for a few seconds, while a vendor joked that if the team played another home opener like last year's, he'd need double the hot dogs. And the premiere resumed with a stretch chronicling the run to 15 wins, the near-automatic third downs, the thread the needle throws. Travis settling into soft spots and cutting at 40. 5 degrees with a defender half-step late, and the editors allowed the Super Bowl loss to breathe without melodrama, showing the quiet of a locker room, the thump of tape rolls dropping into bins, the slow untying of cleats, and then a tilt upward to fans who still smiled on Monday morning, who still wore red to offices, who still pointed to the murals and said the story wasn't over. And when the credits rolled, applause rose in a wave that flattened the sting, and outside, a child in a replica jersey blurted that he'd seen his hero glide off a flyboard in a magazine and run a pivot route in the same week. And his dad laughed because that was, in a way, the entire point, that the modern athlete moves between spectacle and practice as easily as crossing a parking lot. While over in Baja, Selena's crew wound down their ocean spree with a beach bonfire, smoke bending over guitar chords, marshmallows tossing sugar into the night. And the conversation shifted to vows and playlists, and who would cry first. And someone took an unposed photo of Selena looking out across the water, boots scuffed with sand, an image destined to outlast the styled shots. And a friend joked that Benny would turn his Vegas energy into a First Dance remix no one saw coming. And her laugh rose over the tide. And on the other side of the border, Travis recorded another podcast segment where the banter hopped from camp battles to shoe choices to the album scoop, his co-host ribbing him about the tsunami he'd set off with 3 offhand words about bangers. And Travis shrugged in satisfaction, knowing the grin said enough. And behind him a rack of jackets looked like a traveling exhibit from his personal hall of fits, patterns and textures arranged like play diagrams. And a producer tapped a countdown, while a buzz on the board hinted at fresh numbers spiking. And later, in a quiet moment on a training field, he worked footwork ladders with the economy of a veteran, every step a note in a riff he'd refined with seasons, coach's voice calling cadences, the sun dropping along the horizon, and a few teenage players, invited to watch from a distance, clocked the tempo, and whispered that the improviser on Sundays mastered the fundamentals in midweek dusk, and a team staffer muttered that was the real secret, not in a romance headline or a meme, but in hours that no one filmed, then chuckled that now everybody filmed everything, but still missed the heartbeat by a frame. Subscribe if you're into these drops and citywide. The mood felt like a live wire strung between stadium and studio, a civic pride amplified by streaming platforms and late-night bits. Storefronts in the crossroads, painting windows with album titles and jersey numbers, coffee shops writing puns in chalk, and radio hosts jumping from chart talk to third down analytics without missing a beat. And as night aged, the Rolls-Royce idled briefly once more, polished to reflect neon, then imprinted the scene with a last purr before disappearing into the grid, leaving behind conversation that would fill morning commutes and long after. The odd sheets in Vegas refreshed again, tiny adjustments that kept threads of speculation alive without rerouting the main story, and columnists signed off with the same refrain, that the pairing of the league's irrepressible tight end and the world's biggest songwriter had turned a football city into a cultural supernode, a place where a premiere could feel like a parade, and a podcast like a press conference. And as the week flipped, practice returned, scripts printed and stacked, whistles sharp in the air, film rolling from the end zone camera, and the team clocked back into the routine that had built everything, while fans, newly converted or long since ride or die, kept an eye on schedules, ticket drop alerts, and album pre-saves, ready to live the next chapter one cue at a time. And at home, someone placed a hat on a hook and a jacket on a chair, a bookending image that matched the documentary's understated grace, closing a day that started with chatter about entrances and ended with a city's hum settling into sleep, poised for another kickoff, another verse, another frame rolling.